Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdés, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdés.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdés, Valdés with an S, at Rich Valdés on all of the social media, and I just sat down in my chair to start the show, and man, my ass hurts. Why? Because I got my ass kicked by Democrats today. Boy, those numbers don't look good for us. If you want to call me, give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. The race in New Jersey called rather quickly for Mikey Sherrill. He got beat up in Jersey. Jack fought a good fight, but he didn't win. Over into Virginia. Earl Sears fought the good fight, did not win. My guy Curtis Lee was in New York. Right now, votes just trickling in right now. It's about 8 minutes after the hour. And looks like Zoran has a commanding lead over everybody. And we'll see. We'll see if I keep taking lumps tonight. Tonight's the night to get it handed to me. But I'll keep you posted on all those numbers as we move forward. The evening tonight, we're going to do a bunch of analysis on this stuff. We're going to get some reaction from a number of people. And there's a few things that we're going to get into, right? I want to get into some conversation with our friends that are on the ground. We've got folks that are on the ground in Jersey. We're expecting to talk to my buddy Rich Zeoli from Philly in a little bit. And who else? My buddy Nick Giordano from New York is going to weigh in on what's going on. We're going to talk with Councilman Frank Morano from New York City as well. Kerry Pickett's on the ground. She's from the Washington Times. We're going to be checking in with her to get her take on the election turnout as well. Then we're swinging it over to the West Coast because there was a Proposition 50 redistricting on the ballot. You remember that big fight about redistricting, Gavin Newsom putting that on the ballot. Well, that's on the ballot, and so was a number of other positions. And one of the positions that was open was the Secretary of State position. Well, the Secretary of State candidate, Don Wagner, is going to be joining us in a little bit as well to weigh in on that from California, and he'll be doing that live, not now, but in the third hour. So that's that. Plus, we've got Jennifer Kelly, who'll be joining us as well. So, and she was the spokesperson for the California Republican Party. So we've got an all-star cast of people who've done a whole lot of campaigning, a whole lot of elections, a lot of coverage, and a lot of stuff. And I'm looking forward to chatting with them because, man, like I said, I am a sore loser. So I am trying to put my best foot forward, but boy, I am in a funk. I'm in all sorts of funk. This is where I rarely envy anybody, but I am envious today of guys like Mark Levin, right, who they stop at 9 o'clock and they get to sit back, watch these things and yell and curse and jump up and down and maybe have a beer or something. Here I've got to be calm, cool, collected while we go through this shellacking, if you will. Anyway, going to keep you up to speed on that. I've been watching some coverage of what's going on, the various campaign headquarters, people checking in with people. Lots of enthusiasm in all of them, obviously. But numbers coming in, and the only one that's out there, like I said, is going to be New York. We're going to keep your best interest in mind as those numbers come in. I'm going to give them to you because, I'm eagerly awaiting to see them as well. I believe at the end of this evening, I think Curtis is going to perform better than many people expected him to, but I don't know what that looks like just yet. And we'll see what these recent endorsements, these last-minute endorsements that came in for Andrew Cuomo, did they pay off? Did they not? So I'm curious to see that as well. Anyway, and they likely may have, right? But we'll see as that unfolds. Now, I want to get into a couple other things as well. Why? Because, well, I mean, on a big election night, there's plenty to talk about, but there's also other news, right? There's things that are happening all over the world. Excuse me. Things that are happening all over the world. And all of these things are happening, and the government's still shut down, right? And it is getting, I think, difficult for some people, because this sentiment will begin to, it'll become a thing when it becomes more than federal workers that are going to get furloughed and paid back later. When it becomes, these millions of Americans that truly aren't going to be able to access SNAP. And you're not talking about people that go to work and buy their family food. These are people that, go to work and can't still afford food, or people that don't go to work because they can't, or for whatever reason. And that's something I think we don't want to happen. Now, some states are trying to mitigate that. You've got, a couple of measures that are out there, but that's gonna become tough, especially as we get closer to Thanksgiving. I think you're going to see a lot of heated rhetoric, and I would suspect somebody caves by that point. And I'm hoping that somebody is Chuck Schumer. But we'll see. Listen, my crystal ball is pretty cloudy lately. I can't imagine half of the things that are happening, but they're happening. They're happening. So anyway, to cheer me up and bring me some good cheer, I'll tell you a quick little story about, not even 20 years ago, about 22 years ago, right? 2003, I think it was. I was an intern in the office of the most conservative congressman in Congress, Congressman Scott Garrett. He was in New Jersey's 5th District. And Congressman Garrett, I think to date, one of my favorite congressmen ever. And got done dirty by a Republican in New Jersey, by the way. And we get Josh Gottheimer as a result. But all that aside, as I was working in this office, there was an outgoing state director as I was just getting into that office, and his name, Rich Zeoli. And he was a big-time Politico back then, and he went on to become a big-time talk radio guy in Philly. And he's going to be joining us straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdés keeping you company this evening, election night. And can you believe it's November already? I mean, it's cooler weather, Thanksgiving plans. Listen, I got to be honest with you. I love all of the food and the festive drinks. That stuff is good for the soul. But it's not exactly easy on the liver, if you know what I mean. This time of year, our livers are definitely, they go into overtime. And if you're feeling a little bloated, sluggish, or just off, your mind might be telling you it's time to give your liver a little bit of loving. So this is where you got to get Active Liver from New Nordic. It helps keep things balanced. Active Liver is powered by natural ingredients like milk thistle, globe artichoke, turmeric. All of these things have been shown by studies to help your liver stay in tip-top shape. And don't forget the gummies. They taste amazing. So enjoy the food and the festivities, all of that, thanks to Active Liver. You can find the New Nordic brand, their Active Liver line, online at Amazon, Vitacost.com or iHerb.com. Or you can find it in stores at CVS, Meijer Grocery, and ShopRite. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. But you know what does treat a condition? A condition known as liberalism? Rich Zeoli does when he's on the air every single day on WPHT, the big talker. My old friend, Rich Zeoli. Welcome, sir.
Richie V, how are you, brother?
I'm good, my man. So tell me where you are. Are you home? You got your feet up on the couch? Are you at one of the big campaign headquarters? Are you in the studio? What's your status?
I am at a war room right now with some of my Jersey political brothers, of which, of course, I still consider you one to be.
Amen.
even though you're a big national talk show host. But you know, I'm here now, right now, talking with them, looking at the data, looking at the results. I think New Jersey right now, the way it is still too early to call. I think people are making a mistake calling it. Look, I mean, it may ultimately go Mikey Sherrill's way, but there's still a lot of votes out there. So, you know, we're cautiously optimistic that there's a
good to know.
Silver lining here. Morris County, a key county, hasn't reported yet. Somerset County, Jackson County hasn't reported yet. So there's still a lot of votes to go. I think people are kind of jumping the gun here. But like I said, I mean, it may ultimately go Mikey Sherrill's way, but I think it's too early yet. That's my own personal sense of it.
No, that's actually really good information because, you know, right before the show, we came live at 6 after 9 and around 8:58 or so, just at the end of the last hour, I saw that Newsmax and I think one other news outlet had called it for Mikey Sherrill as the projected winner. So we're using that information. But, yeah, I'm always looking to, you know, I don't want to have any more lumps than I need. All right. I already feel lumped up tonight looking at what happened in Virginia. Now, talk to me about this race.
I mean, I'm not surprised about Virginia. Obviously, I think we kind of expected that. But you know, but the race with Jack, they said was very close, and it was just going to all depend on turnout of those Trump voters and seeing if they would come out for the polls. The Democrat numbers look stronger than I think we anticipated, certainly, and Jack is, as of right now, underperforming with Black voters and Latino voters, unlike President Trump, who in 2024 did much better with them. So for him to make up that gap at this point, he's going to have to probably show a very, very strong, like the precincts that are coming in places like Ocean County and Morris County, some of those real Republican strongholds have to really deliver. And those counties, as I'm looking at them right now, Rich, as we're talking, they're about 50% in, you know, so there's about 50% in those key Republican strongholds in that race. So,
what about Monmouth? Have you seen Monmouth come in yet?
Monmouth numbers right now, and this is according to NBC News. So I'm looking at this in real time right now. We're saying there's still about 1.2 million votes to go. Monmouth, Jack has a slight lead in, but I can tell you, I was talking to the chairman today. And there's an 82% in. Jack's up 54 to 45%. And the chairman was very pleased with the turnout in Monmouth County. And the same thing with Ocean County, too. So Jack is looking very strong there. He's looking very strong in Ocean, and he's looking very strong in some of the other Republican places. But like I said, the question will become, as Morris County is now beginning to report, can he make up the gap? In that race, it's about 25% in, and right now he's got a slight lead. So he has a sizable gap to make up, no doubt about it, Rich. But this race has come down to a guy who has worked very hard, retail politics, going to diners, shaking hands, meeting voters where they are, getting to know them, talking to them directly. And Mikey Sherrill has run an entire campaign about Donald Trump. You know, she's made this entirely a referendum on Trump. She has not really addressed the issues. So if she does ultimately prevail tonight, the story that she will tell when she accepts victory is that this was a rejection of Trump and Trumpism. That's what she'll say. And I can guarantee you, and you know this from your time in New Jersey politics as well, I can guarantee you that she will start running for president. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
That's every New Jersey governor.
yeah, and she'll be in Iowa, and she'll be speaking at dinners in South Carolina before we even know it. But that's what she'll say tonight. She won't even mention Jack's name. She'll get up at the podium and just go after Trump and tariffs and Trumpism, and that's what the story will be.
Well, and you know, it's funny, throughout the campaign, that's exactly how it was, right? She didn't mention Jack until I think maybe a month ago, when they started having debates, that she started calling him out by name. But prior to that, it was Donald Trump and Jack Ciattarelli, whenever they put them together, and they ran the entire campaign against Trump. And this was a strategy that I first saw really be successful in the race. I want to say it was early 2000s. Menendez was running for the U.S. Senate, and he ran against George Bush. And people were confused because Menendez, George Bush wasn't a senator. He was the president. But if you drove around the blue cities, I remember driving through Essex County, and you would just see Menendez versus Bush. And I was just like, what an interesting strategy. And again, I wrote it off like, that's never going to work. But it did, because that's all they do is spend their time with their friends in the media, beating up whoever they can hang in effigy. And then they just keep pounding away. And every candidate runs against that same person that they hang in effigy. And you would think that we'd try to get away from it. But it seems like, how do you get away from it, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, and I should mention, as we're talking right now, NBC News has just projected Mikey Sherrill the winner. So you said Newsmax did earlier. I don't know if Fox News has yet or not. Yeah. But look, if this is as bad as it looks for Republicans tonight, then is it abandoned hope, for all of us, at least statewide in a state like New Jersey, because Jack was probably our best chance that we had in a long time to probably win this one. And in your days working for Chris Christie back in the day, and we do elect governors in New Jersey, but we don't elect people who are
twice
running for Senate, right? Twice, right? So is that over? Has that changed now? Is this a rejection of Trump in New Jersey? I don't know. We're going to have to sort all that out. But the one thing I do know, though, is that the organization he had Cliff Maloney and the NJ Chase and Scott Pressler, and he had everything working for him in this race.
The Charlie Kirk people were assisting as well.
Turning Point. I mean, they just did a big rally, Turning Point Action, just yesterday in Medford, New Jersey, in Burlington County. They had all hands on deck. Today on my show in Philly, the guys from NJ Chase called me and said they knocked on over 500,000 doors. So all the variables were there for him in terms of organization and support. So to not be able to pull this off tonight against a candidate who, quite frankly, just didn't speak to voters, we're going to have to do some serious soul searching after this. I mean, not only just the Republican Party in New Jersey, but in other places too, because really, truly, Rich, this will be there'll be a civil war in the Republican Party after this in New Jersey. There's no doubt about that. There will be an all-out civil war. Tomorrow morning.
I remember years ago, right, with Jay Weber, and there was a huge civil war between conservatives and moderates, and it was like, we don't like you, this and that. I totally remember that. That was brutal.
And Jack, he said on day one he would end sanctuary cities. He said that was going to be the first executive order, was to end sanctuary cities. You got to wonder now, Rich, if maybe that was maybe not the right message. I don't know, but certainly that. I thought from a conservative perspective, he was saying all the right things to at least get Trump voters out there, and the president doing 2 teletown halls for him. He did another one for him last night. Maybe what would have made the difference was if Trump had come in to New Jersey and done a rally for him. I don't know.
Right.
I just don't know. We'll have to go through the data and we'll have to digest it. That's for sure. But this is a shock because if anything, we were all expecting this race to be razor thin. Not this.
Yeah, me too. I didn't think it was going to be more than 5 points, and it looks tough. Rich Zeoli, thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. Good to hear from you. My best to you and your family, brother. God bless.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. God bless.
You too. And amigos, Curtis Sliwa just took the stage, and he is addressing his supporters at his event in the borough of Manhattan. We're going to go to him live straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
You can live the American dream.
Yes.
I swear to all of you, on behalf of my wife Nancy, myself, and everybody who made this effort possible, we will continue on. We will prevail in honor of our parents and grandparents. The tradition of America will grow and prevail and prosper, and it will be we, the people, who will be successful. I our campaign team.
Yes.
And it's been magnificent, comprised of millennials and Gen Zers. Yes. James Perone.
Yes.
That is Curtis Sliwa. It sounds like he's conceding the election as results are coming in, and the odds don't look good. And he fought a good fight, and he made some comments about how some of the most powerful people in the world made sure that he wasn't able to move his campaign forward, pledging to continue this fight. Curtis Sliwa, definitely my dog in the fight, a friend of mine, somebody I think that would be the most amazing mayor the city's had in a long time, maybe besides Rudy Giuliani. And what are you going to say? Tough day, right? I got a black guy in New Jersey. I got a black guy in New York City. We got a black guy in Virginia. Man, I'm getting lumped up tonight. Let's bring in our guest, Professor Nick Giordano, Professor of Political Science in New York. And Professor Nick Giordano, you just heard Curtis giving some words to supporters with them yelling back, fight, fight, fight. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I don't think the results are all that surprising. I mean, when you look at the Republican apparatus as a whole, they pretty much surrendered New York City, and they didn't lift a finger to help his campaign at all. And then 2
Did
weeks
they lift a
before
finger
the
to
election,
hurt the campaign?
Yeah, 2 weeks before the election, they say don't vote for the Republican, even though we're the Republican Party, vote for the Democrat who had to resign in disgrace as governor. And so
kills babies and grandmas.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating thing to watch where Republicans just basically surrendered. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They surrendered New York City to a communist. And they could say that if Sliwa got out of race, maybe Cuomo would have won. As of right now, it's tight. But if you put Sliwa's votes and Cuomo's votes together, they still lose to Mamdani. So it seems that New York, the residents of New York City, are choosing communism. And it's going to be interesting. The guardian angels will be needed, that's for sure.
That's 100% true, man. Yeah, you know, I tell you, Nick, it's been a long time since I've had an election night like this one. And this is my first time, I'll be honest, this is for everybody. I have never been so personally disappointed on an election night as I am now. I was very disappointed in 2020, very. That was my all-time most disappointing night. Tonight has taken the cake, right? This election, I'm not going to say it was stolen, but man, doesn't look good. Nick, go ahead.
I have to disagree with you a little bit. So New York City was really predictable. I mean, you know, we saw the energy behind Mamdani. The reality is he draws out a lot of supporters. The base is energized. And they're also motivated with the anti-Republicanism, anti-Trumpism. We saw it during the No Kings rally a couple weeks ago. A lot of Republicans were making fun and saying, oh, there's a bunch of old people. But when millions of people come out in the streets, and they are old people, and old people tend to vote, well, you saw something happening. And I think Republicans underestimated it. But Mamdani is not a surprise in New York. It's surprising in the sense where you can allow a communist to lead the financial capital of the United States. What does surprise me is New Jersey, because I really thought Ciattarelli had a good shot.
Well, that's really where my
winning.
disappointment was. I felt bad about New York, but I'm thinking I thought we were going to win by 5 in Jersey, and we took a beating over there too.
Well, I figured it would be close, but I thought that we had a shot at that. And then what to me is really disgraceful is Jay Jones in Virginia. Now, Virginia's been Democrat, if we look, since, you know, the expansion of government. As government expands, Virginia has grown more and more blue. But here's a guy that called for a political opponent to be assassinated, and his children as well, young children, and yet Democrats said, we don't care. We will condone that language. We'll support it because we're going to elect the guy that said it. And it's really, you have to ask where we are as a culture where, you know, someone could advocate the assassination of a political opponent and his children, and yet the Democrat voters of Virginia said, yeah, we'll take that guy over the Republican. It really is a bizarre phenomenon. So I say that New Jersey...
a really good lawyer, by the way, Jason Miyares.
Correct.
I thought he was a great attorney general.
Absolutely. And so I think those are the two races that are the most disappointing. I think Abigail Spanberger winning Virginia is not a surprise. Winston Sears has been down about 10 points for the last couple of months. And in New York, like I said, I mean, it's New York City. It was always a long shot for a Republican to win. And when you don't have the backing of the Republican Party and you don't have the support, the odds of you winning are even slimmer than that. And I argue that there isn't much of a difference between Mamdani and Cuomo. One is the slow decline of New York in Cuomo. The other one's a rapid decline of New York City in Mamdani. So we're going to get the rapid decline.
Yeah, Professor Nick Giordano is our guest. He's joining us from New York. And, you know, Professor Nick Giordano, professor of political science, by the way, host of the PAS Report podcast. The Associated Press is calling the New York City mayor's race for Mamdani. And this is obviously, you know, this is going to be news for, I don't know, forever, right? for at least another month, right? I was looking at some of the setups earlier.
Well, no, it's going to be news for the next 2 years because Mamdani now becomes the face of the Democrat Party. I mean, if Republicans are smart, that he's the one that, if you, former President Obama bowed down to kiss the ring. You have Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader, going to him, bowing down to kiss the ring. And you see all these Democrats that lined up behind Mamdani, and even they may not have given an endorsement like President Obama. Well, the fact that you reached out to him, the fact that you said that you're there as support shows your support for him. So this is the new Democrat Party. And it's not the Democrat Party anymore. It's the Democratic Socialist Party of America, because that's the party that Mamdani is part of.
Yep. Nice job, everybody. Nice job. That's all I could say. Congratulations to all the Democrats that voted for Mamdani. Congratulations to all the Republicans that, endorsed Democrats as well. Tonight, the Democrats won. I don't know.
They won, but in the long term, it may be a loss for them. I think that they will come to regret this night. And part of the problem that they're going to have is Mamdani has a radical city council that's going to approve everything he wants. Mm-hmm. And so we are going to get a real life test case of what socialism/communism will look like in a major city in the United States. And I think when people get a taste of what it looks like, a lot of people are going to reject that. Because don't forget, this is going to embolden the progressive, the far left wing of the party. They're the ones, they've taken it over when we look at the last few years. This now solidifies they lead this party, and now it's on them.
Yeah. Nick Giordano, I want you to stick with me for one more segment because I want to ask you about some of the issues and some of the feedback that I've just been hearing from some of the voters, which I think is pretty wild. So stick with me. Amigos, we're coming right back with Nick Giordano.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdés licking my wounds over here. Man, I'm a sore loser. So bear with me, amigos. But I'm on with Professor Nick Giordano. He's the host of the PAS Report. You've seen him 1,000 times on the Fox News channel. He used to do primetime all the time, and we're lucky to have him here. Now, Professor Nick Giordano, I don't have the clip, but I'm going to describe it to you. It's a young man, and they're like, who are you voting for? He says, I'm voting for Zoran Mamdani. And they say, why? And he says, well, because I think it's time we do something different. And they say, well, different about what? And he says, well, this country's been a capitalist country for so long, and you know we still have homeless people. We're still poor. It seems like things are working well in Denmark, and he's like a Bernie bro, and he thinks that this is a clever system, that the government owes him something, and that billionaires shouldn't exist, but yet they want to tax the billionaires to fund all their freebies. And while that to a guy like you or me might sound crazy, he truly sipped that Kool-Aid and believed this to be true and to be fact. And I'm thinking you probably run into a lot of those people as a professor of political science at a college.
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I love the notion that they try and blame capitalism. The fact is the United States is not a pure capitalist economy. We are a shared economy. In fact, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and several other of the Nordic and Scandinavian nations rank higher than us on the capitalism scale than we do here in the United States. So I always find it interesting when they point to those nations and say that capitalism is a problem. Well, no, those nations are more capitalist than we are, actually. And more importantly, I constantly run into people that say, well, Mamdani's a socialist, but we don't think he's going to put in socialist policies. Well, yes, he is. Or at one interview I saw, they asked a young fellow, well, where do you think we should represent? And they're like, well, Cuba. I'm like, oh, great, we'll go to bed starving, but at least we'll have nice weather. I mean, people don't have critical thinking skills anymore, that's for sure. To think that there aren't consequences to the policies, the unrealistic policies of Mamdani, is just delusional. You can't we know what government-run grocery stores are like. We don't need a new test case. We have plenty of test cases. We know what rent stabilization actually does. You know, when it comes to Mamdani, a lot of people say it's socialism, but no, he actually pushes communism. He wants government to get into owning property and housing and development. He wants to control the means of production of how many homes are produced. He wants to control the means of production when it comes to grocery stores. That's communism. That's not socialism. And it will be interesting to see what New Yorkers think after a year or two, because you're going to have a lot of capital leave New York now. And it doesn't just affect the city. Those wealthy billionaires that actually keep the city going, that keep the city funded, they also pay state taxes as well. So New York State as a whole is going to go on a decline. And most people don't know this, but if you go back 45 years ago, New York had about 35 or 36 congressional districts. Today, we're down to 26. In the next census, we're going to lose more congressional districts because people have been leaving this state in droves. And I don't think that electing Mamdani as the New York City mayor is going to help that situation.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Nick Giordano, I want to talk a little bit post-mortem analysis here, because that was, the ode to socialism that the guy was saying on the news, and I just thought, oh my gosh, we are so screwed. But flip it around, right? And obviously, all right, I'm gonna pout, I'm gonna sulk a little bit for the next, hour, and then I got to come back. We got to come back strong, right? This is a big deal. Now, from my conversation with you a little while ago, and from my conversation a little bit earlier with my buddy Rich Zeoli, who was on right before you, we were talking about how there may be a rift within the Republican Party, and I think that's already happening in the movement in New York City. There's a lot of antipathy of the way this election went down, and he's predicting the same with the folks in New Jersey, and unsure as to where they went wrong. Was it not focusing on the right issues? I mean, I think they were honing in on the energy issue. That was, I could tell you, my home energy costs have close to doubled, maybe even double and a half, right? I mean, they've really changed in the last 2 years, let's say. So I can't imagine how you vote to the party that's in power, even if you're an independent. You're like, hey, I'll keep going with the same thing. The Einstein thing about banging your head against the wall. It's insanity. So what do you think happens, tomorrow with the Republican Party? Does Washington, RNC, do they say, and I'm going to invite them on too, but do they turn around and say we need to focus more on New York and Jersey and these other states, or do they do what they've historically done, which is said, these are too deep blue, we're not going to get involved, we're going to fight the fights we can win?
Well, what should happen is we fight we fight all the fights. We don't surrender areas. You run candidates in every single area. I don't care if it's 90% Democrat. You still run a Republican candidate. You show up in that community. You speak to the people of that community. You listen to what the complaints are in that community. The only way to win over voters is to actually be present. And Republicans have been absent for a very long time in New York City, ever since Giuliani left. So Republicans either need to get their act together, and I'm talking about the Republican leadership, or they just should resign because they are useless, the Republican leadership in New York. Jersey is a little bit of a different story because I do believe that Ciattarelli ran a great campaign. I do believe that he was talking about the issues. I think that Mikey Sherrill was a horrible candidate. I just think that the Democrats were that energized to get out and vote, and they just had a better ground game than the Republicans did in New Jersey. I think in New York, it's a completely different story where the Republican Party is just a disaster. They're absent.
Well, let me tell you, Nick, and I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm just giving you some real-time feedback. I was out there banging the phones at a phone bank for Ciattarelli. There was some people there, more than usual, right? I haven't ever seen really a whole. Well, maybe during the Christie years, some of the phone banking there was actually a little bit. During the re-election, there was a lot of people out there. But I think re-election campaigns usually have a little more enthusiasm, and the Turning Point people were on the ground. The Scott Pressler team was on the ground. I think he had a good campaign apparatus. I think all the boxes were checked, and still, it wasn't the 5-point victory I was expecting. It was more than a 5-point loss.
Yeah, it is a problem, and I think that another problem is Republican voters and even independent voters. I hear a lot of Republican voters constantly complain, but yet they don't get active. They don't get involved. They don't get out there. They don't knock on doors or do phone banks like you did, and they'll complain about everything. But when it's time to actually volunteer and put boots on the ground, they're nowhere to be found, and that's a problem for Republicans too. They don't have a good way of energizing their people. As far as independents, I think that Republicans largely ignore independents. They try to just get Republicans to turn out, and that independents are the key to election victories, especially when it's a close race. So Republicans do have to do a postmortem here in New York, New Jersey, and Virginia to figure out how can we regain ground in these areas. And another problem that Republicans have is when Trump's on the ticket, Republicans do well. But when he's not on the ticket, it seems that the Republicans don't do well. And they have to figure that out. Trump's not going to be around forever. He's done after this term. And they have to be able to have a viable political party without Trump. And I think that's a big problem, too, that Republicans
I've
need
said
to take
for a long
look
time, I think the Republican Party died shortly after the Bush administration during the Obama years. And Trump breathed fresh life into it, and he's the source. Without Trump, I don't know that we have much of a party. Nick, stick with me. I got to take a pause right here. We'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, amigos, welcome back. I'll wrap it up with my guy, Professor Nick Giordano. Nick, I know you wanted to make a final point. Go right ahead. You got 30 seconds.
I think one of the most important things that Republicans take away from this, the answer is in trying to be more like Democrats or back Democratic candidates. I think that Republicans need to really get back in touch with the people, speak to the people, and they need to put up a fight in the areas that they've long surrendered.
Yeah. I agree with that. And, I think President Trump had so much success in doing exactly that, doing rallies in the Bronx, doing a rally in Madison Square Garden, really rallying the troops, going where they haven't gone before. And that's why he picked up Hispanics and blacks. Nick Giordano, thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you for having me on, Rich.
You bet. God bless. We'll talk again soon. Amigos, more to come straight ahead. Keep it locked right here. The number 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdés, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdés.
Our kids are safe online and schools have the resources they need to address the mental health crisis. I hear you, Jersey City, so I'm going to hold government accountable, balancing individual liberty with collective responsibility, ensuring people are safe, healthy, educated, and free to pursue their dreams. I hear you, New Jersey.
The governor-elect of New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill. I did my best to make sure she didn't win, and she won anyway. So what does that say? They came out strong, right? The Democrats came out very, very strong tonight. What am I going to say, right? I got it wrong. I got my butt kicked. And Jack Ciattarelli is also on stage right now giving his concession speech. Let's go to the Ciattarelli campaign.
City. New Jersey's been home for 100 years, and it will continue to be my home. And I look forward to seeing you all and working together once again to make sure that we effectuate the kind of change we so desperately need here in this state that we also love so very, very much. Guys, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you.
Jack Ciattarelli giving his concession speech tonight. And I got to tell you, she looks a little angry giving her speech. He's smiling. He's very happy because he's a pretty cheerful guy. And he ran a good campaign. And I don't think you could ask for much more than that. And you know what? Bottom line is, Jack Ciattarelli was probably going to take a pay cut to go work in government so he can go back to being a business owner and doing his thing. And, hey, can't be mad at the guy. He tried 3 times, didn't work out. God bless him, right? Too many people complain, not enough people try. Anyway, during the break, I got a text from the great one, Mark Levin. and I just noticed that he tweeted something as well. And I'm going to read it to you. Although New Jersey and Virginia are blue states, and New York City is now more pink than blue, if we do not defeat the bigots, racists, anti-Semites, anti-Christian elements trying to devour the Republican Party, we will lose in 2026 and 2028 in marginal and purple states. President Trump showed the way. I agree with that. As Reagan did before. And we must not abandon this to the grifters and worse. Even our people will not turn out in big numbers for the kooks. We can Mamdani Democrats throughout the country, but we must ensure they cannot Tucker us. Words from the great one. I appreciate the great one here. I often do. His wisdom's always important to me. And I can tell you that this is, I think what Nick Giordano said also, a very viable point, a very valid point. This is an inflection point. Right? It's an inflection point. We have to ask ourselves, where are we as the movement? Forget the party, right? Because it's not a party thing. I've never really considered myself much of a Republican. I've never held party office or anything like that. But I do consider myself a conservative. I have pretty traditional conservative values that I tend to vote and espouse that, in large part, I try to remain guided through my worldview, which I try to base on my understanding of Scripture, right? I try to be a moral person. I try to be because I fail on a pretty regular basis. I meet a lot of people who have a way better temper than I do, that are a little bit less judgmental than I am, that are a little bit more forgiving than I am, and all areas where I can develop in my own character. And as I grow, I'm aware of those things, and I try to work on them. I probably need to work on them a little bit better. But I say all of that to say that we, as a movement, right, this movement that was once the Reagan conservatives or the Goldwater conservatives, and then became, the moral majority and the silent majority and the Tea Party and the Make America Great Again movement, the MAGA movement. Here we are. We're here. And tonight will not define us, right? We still believe in the same things, God, family, country. These are the things that still resonate in those of us that espouse those principles. The question I think we have to ask, and this is a question I've asked of my own family members when you and I get together around this radio table every night, right? Our little late night national town hall. But at Thanksgiving in my real life, I'm with my family, and our house is all politics at Thanksgiving, right? Politics and Bible is kind of how it works, and we debate all of that stuff. And my question always becomes, and I guess because I'm here in the New York, New Jersey area, I always say, but I feel outnumbered. And today's a perfect example of how outnumbered I feel, right? Perfect example. We're outnumbered. How do you get someone who didn't lie like Obama did, right? Because I think Obama, in large part, he got elected saying one thing, and he became something else. Mamdani told the truth right from the beginning. And Obama didn't lie a lot either. There's a lot of things he said that he was honest about. And he was pretty radical during his time. But Mamdani is incredibly radical. And he makes it seem like you're the radical. He makes it seem like Bernie Sanders is the mainstream. And shame on you. Kathy Hochul is endorsing him, and he says, are you going to endorse her? He's like, I don't know. A guy who's an assemblyman, not that an assemblyman is not a significant political office, but he's not the governor. And he's like, I don't know, the jury's still out, Very smug, very confident. Some would even say arrogant. Okay, granted. He knew something I didn't, that he had this thing in the bag. How? I don't know. I'm guessing because of the money that came in, because of the people he spoke to, because he has a good sense of things. He had an amazing message discipline. You could have told him your mother smells like whatever, and he would have been like, it's about affordability in New York City. And what's your name again? Affordability in New York City. He was on message. You couldn't move the guy. He was like a robot. And the majority of the robot people in New York City, I guess they found that endearing. But again, it comes to the question of, are we outnumbered, right? Are we outnumbered? And, for years, in the South, they've talked about, how do we address a situation like this? How do we fix the issue? And, there are churches in the South that are focused on fundamentalism, that they say, hey, look, it's you got to live your faith in every aspect, and you've got to have a big family. And, you've got people like that old TV show, the one with the 19 kids and counting, right? That's a thing that happens in Arkansas and other parts. That was obviously the exception to the rule. But it doesn't mean that big families are not a norm over there. People do homeschool. People do take their faith very seriously. But when you get to a place like New York City, it's like Sodom and Gomorrah, if you will. They're like, no, all bets are off. We're not doing that here. And that spills over into, as soon as you want a little bit of grass and a little bit less crazy, you go to North Jersey, right? The sixth borough, where I am. And it's the same thing here, right? Mikey Sherrill, she didn't hide. She didn't obfuscate at all. And they asked her, what do you think about transgender education in third grade or whatever it was in grammar school? And she said, I think the right thing to do for New Jerseyans is to put, I'm paraphrasing, but she's basically said the right thing to do is to make sure that kids have access to all the information. And we want to make sure they know about the LGBTQ plus community and blah, 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 blah. Because, we need to empower parents with the information so that, when their kids come, we can educate them on these things. And I thought, wow, I'd not heard a governor or a candidate for governor say that before. I heard her say it, and I just watched her win. So Okay, I'm in the minority. I've been a minority most of my life, right? So I'm kind of used to it. But I thought that there were issues just, 5 weeks ago where these were 80-20 issues, right? Where people were on board with like, yeah, you're right. It's the minority of people that want transgenderism. And on the national level, that may be true. But on the local level, it's not true at all. Right? Locally in New Jersey, the voters have spoken, and they want that. They want transgenderism in third grade. Wild. Locally, the voters have spoken. They want Mamdani's free this, free that, and free everything. They want that in New York City. Wild. So it puts me in a position of, I got a lot more work to do, right? We got to reach more people. We got to figure out new ways of reaching people and educating the public on what we truly believe, right? Because you can't get painted as a caricature. And I think that's oftentimes what happens. They take Republicans, paint us as characters, and then just kind of walk away. Anyway, we're going to get some post-mortem analysis on this election from Kerry Pickett from the Washington Times. She is on loan to New York City from Washington, D.C. We're going to get to your calls as well. I see we've got calls from Idaho, Florida, Illinois, Vermont, and more coming in right now. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Oh, my liberty-loving Latino.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Incredibly concerning. And I think that it is an illustration of the attacks we're seeing on our democracy. Sometimes they're blatant and explicit in the manner of these bomb threats. And we have to understand this as part of the general approach the Trump administration has taken to trying to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country.
That is Zoran Mamdani taking shots at El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th and 47th president of these United States. And I should say that is the governor-elect of New York City, Zoran Mamdani, who won his election. And I'm here to get some reaction to that from Kerry Pickett. Kerry Pickett is on loan to New York City from Washington, D.C., where she covers the White House for the Washington Times. Kerry Pickett, welcome back. How's New York treating you?
New York is treating me as well as it can treat me. Rich, I'm here at the Mamdani election night party in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And we are waiting for Mr. Mamdani to take the stage to talk about his victory tonight over former Governor Andrew Cuomo. And, it appeared that it was going to be a foregone conclusion in the final weeks of the campaign. Mamdani really had essentially clinched this particular election. It was going to be very hard for Mr. Cuomo to really overcome the numbers that were coming in. As much as Cuomo thought that he could correct mistakes that he made during the primary, he just couldn't bring over Republicans and independents that he needed. And at the same time, he just couldn't bring over Democrats that he obviously needed as well.
Kerry Pickett, talk to me about, I would assume that the energy in the room in Mamdani's campaign headquarters is through the roof. I know it's a pretty big room. I saw it on television. What's the vibe like?
Oh, it is jubilant. His supporters are looking forward to complete and total policy changes here in New York City. They are saying one particular word, and we've all heard it many, many times: affordability. They are thinking that Mr. Mamdani will make buses more affordable, housing more affordable. They think that childcare will become more affordable. The question, though, that many people who have reservations about Mr. Mamdani is, where is he going to get the money? Now, ultimately, very often, politicians like Mr. Mamdani will say, well, hey, we're just going to tax the rich. The problem, though, and this is something that Mamdani has often sort of skirted around, is that the rich very often tend to leave places like New York. They go to their second homes, or they just pick up and they just leave New York altogether. Right. And they just say, forget about it. They also have their businesses leave New York as well. So it's, Mamdani's going to have to figure out how can he keep these businesses in New York, especially when he's chasing stores like Graffitti. Maybe you have John Catsimatidis. He's not going to want to have stores like Graffiti's to be sticking around if he's going to have government-owned grocery stores in there. He's already said that. What about Morton Williams? Yeah, that's another store that's going to be thinking about what are they going to do.
Crazy stuff. Now, Kerry Pickett, talk to me about, have you been to any of the other campaign offices or headquarters throughout the evening as part of your reporting, or have you been pretty stationary in Brooklyn at the Mamdani campaign?
Well, just for tonight, I'm going to be at the Mamdani campaign. I did, however, check out Cuomo's campaign yesterday. He seemed pretty confident that he was going to win. But it seemed more like he was, like I said, trying to correct the mistakes that he made, during the primary. I did talk to Curtis Sliwa a while back, and he seemed like he was that was back when he was getting a bit of a surge.
Yeah.
But still, Curtis just really couldn't get above those single digits, or maybe sometimes he got right into the 10% number. But ultimately, look, it is very hard to be a Republican and win the mayor's post unless you're Rudy Giuliani. And Curtis, unfortunately, just wasn't going to be that guy.
All right, Kerry Pickett, thank you for your reporting. Folks, check her out at the Washington Times. Kerry Pickett, always a pleasure to speak with you. I appreciate it. And
sure
amigos, thank you, Kerry. We're going to continue with your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and so much more. I would bring a call in right now, but we have to take a pause in about 20 seconds, so I don't want to cut you off. But we are going to come back and go to your calls. And I want to hear from you, the American people. What are your thoughts on what's going on in America this evening with losses in New Jersey for Republicans, losses in New York, losses in Virginia? California is coming up in the next hour. We're going to see what happens there with that Proposition 50. We got a couple of guests from California that will be joining us live. So keep it locked right here for that. And we're coming right back with your calls. Open Phone America. Don't go anywhere.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much. My fellow Virginians, tonight we sent a message.
sent a message to every corner of the Commonwealth, a message to our neighbors and our fellow Americans across the country. We sent a message to the whole world that in 2025, Virginia chose pragmatism over partisanship. We chose our Commonwealth over chaos. You all chose leadership that will focus relentlessly on what matters most: lowering costs, keeping our communities safe, and strengthening our economy for every Virginian.
All right, that is Abigail Spanberger, the governor-elect of Virginia, another female, another Democrat that won this evening in Virginia. And that makes a win for the Democrats in Virginia, a win for Democrats in New Jersey, a win for Democrats in New York City. The party of AOC, all out crazy, is growing and expanding. And they seem to have, the socialist wing of the party seems to have all of the momentum. And my question to you all, the callers, is that the wave of the future? Has America embraced socialism? Let's go to the calls. I want to go to Al, who's calling us from Arcadia, Florida, WNDB. Go right ahead, Al.
Hey, Rich, man, dude, you guys ran a good campaign, okay? You know, like don't feel down. You took Curtis from being a local New York guy to being American phenomenon, you know? So don't sell you guys short, you know? Like, you guys ran a hell of a campaign, and I'll tell you what, no matter what happens, the 82nd Airborne will always be behind Curtis if he needs us.
Well, that's kind of you to say, Al. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I don't know that I can tell when I was a little kid, Curtis was already a huge icon, and he was in the Death Wish movie with Charles Bronson, which I thought was so cool. And he's got tons of Guardian Angels chapters all across the country, and I think in 130 countries or something like that. He's really all over the place. But thank you, and I appreciate it. We did what we had to do, right? I helped him out as much as I could, and I think he ran a good campaign. Obviously, there's room for improvement given the results, but I do appreciate your thoughts nonetheless. Al in Arcadia, Florida, WNDB. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Let's see. Where do we go here? All right, let me get ready here. Let me lick my wounds. Let me get ready to take a whooping here from Jerome, calling us from Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. All right, Jerome, have at it.
Hey, how'd that ass whooping taste tonight, huh?
Brother, I am sitting on one of those foam donuts. I took a beating tonight, bro. I'm eating crow.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, you've been eating a long time. You just didn't realize it till tonight, huh? I've been warning you about this. I've been warning you a long time. What I've been telling you? Oh, he's the Trumpinator and the Trumping, Trump this and Trump. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's a loser, and he's always been a loser.
He won. He won. Trump won. The losers are the Republicans that ran in New York, New Jersey, and in Virginia. Trump's sitting in the White House. He's sitting pretty. Listen, Jerome, you had your moment to gloat. You had your moment to gloat. But listen, I'm going to take the whooping, right? I have to take the L. I have no choice. But don't think for a second that we're not going to come back. We're going to come back, and that's it. And I'll get to gloat next time. Thank you, Jerome. I appreciate it. I really do. A little comic relief from Jerome. Let's see. Where do we go? My man, Paul. Paul's in Boise, Idaho, streaming the show from KBOI country, KBFI country, Boise, Idaho. Let's click him in so I could talk to Paul on line one. Go right ahead, sir.
My condolences, Rich.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, tough pill to swallow on that one. All three of those races were lost. And they on
looking at
paper,
Virginia, 57
really
to 43, and those it was pretty. It wasn't close really anywhere except if you add up everybody that ran against Mamdani, he still wins. But that would have probably been the closest of all three of those.
I think it was ran pretty much as professionally as you could get, almost like Pelosi-esque.
Yeah. Well,
listen, a couple of them were ran.
When I get into my family meetings with my brothers and my family, and we're doing Thanksgiving and whatever, I could tell you, a lot of times these guys are over the top in their optimism, and I'm the one saying, "Hey, listen, take it easy. Don't discount everybody out there." And I'm the first one to say that stuff, but it's a good lesson, right? We should all practice what we preach. And I don't think I discounted anybody. I didn't for a second think that that Zohran Mamdani was a bad campaigner. Quite the contrary. I think the guy's polished. He doesn't stop smiling. He smiles ad nauseum to the point where he looks like a robot. But guess what? That stuff works. And something I learned how to do doing radio was watching the news on mute, right? Just reading the chyrons and the scroll at the bottom. And when you're the same way I love radio, because you can't see what's going on, so you have to use your mind's eye, the theater of the mind to create the image of what's going on. It's the same way when you have to figure out what they're saying on TV, right? When you watch it without sound. And when you watch political people doing campaign stuff, their body language and their facial expressions, they tell a lot of the story. And I look at that and I go, if I didn't know better, and if I didn't know these people, and I couldn't kind of assume what they were saying because I've listened to so much of their audio clips, what would I think of that person? And this is why I was always big on Trump, because Trump, even when he gets into those sparring matches with the media, it's, oh, you're nasty. Why do you have to be so nasty, right? When he does stuff like that, but he always comes back with a little quip and a smile. He's got a charming smile. He kind of gives it right to the audience. And that stuff sells. That is good campaigning. Trump is masterful at that. And that note I read from Mark Levin earlier that he put on Twitter, he said it right. Trump has shown us the way. He has. He's shown us how to win. Now we've got to take that playbook and do it. Now, does everybody have Donald Trump level personality, Donald Trump level strategy, Donald Trump level shrewdness? The answer is no on all of those. But it doesn't mean you don't try, right? So yeah, I think you're onto something, Paul. Paul,
thanks, Rich.
Paul? Oh, thank you, Paul. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for the call. Amigos, I'm going to take a pause right here. We're going to come right back. Your calls, thoughts, reactions, and so much more. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdés.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés. Call now, 833-4-Valdés. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdés. That's Valdés with an S.
Almost half of New Yorkers did not vote to support a government agenda that makes promises that we know cannot be met. We support an economy of jobs, of opportunity, of entrepreneurship. That's what New York is, and that's what New York must remain. We are a nation.
That is former governor and mayoral candidate Andrew Cuomo making his announcement that he did not win, that he was the spoiler, that he just showed up to feed his ego. Biggest takeaway was that he got more votes than his late father. That's literally what he just finished saying. First time he smiled giving that speech. I was watching it on video as that was happening. I got to tell you, I am incredibly biased. I do not like Andrew Cuomo as a human being. God forgive me. I think if I had to describe Satan incarnate, it would look like Andrew Cuomo. So just putting it out there. If I sound like I'm being a little bit harsh, that's why. Can't stand them. But that was him giving his speech to tell New Yorkers that they voted for him on an independent line with the support of the richest man in the world, with the support of the White House, Republicans across the city trying to ensure a Democrat victory. He still lost. Should have bet on the Republican. Could have lost with a little more dignity. Anyway, yep, I'm sour, but I'll get over it. We must move ahead because America is worthy of fighting for. And we're going to hit the phones. Let me see who is up next. All right, let's go to RC giving us a call from Alexandria, Virginia, WMAL. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. We have no common sense here in Northern Virginia. I feel that we, as government workers, should have at least worked with Donald Trump. I don't think that Abigail is going to work with Donald Trump. I think we're in deep trouble, and I think he's going to just pass by Virginia and say, good luck, you Northern Virginians, and he will determine what he's going to do with the government workers.
All right, RC giving us a call. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sense.
I didn't hear you. Say it again.
They did not use good common sense in working with politics. They're going to have it's just not going to be good for Virginia.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I can tell you, people think about Virginia, and I've been down there, especially the deeper part of Virginia, like closer to West Virginia, and I can't find somebody who is liberal there. It's a very conservative place. My daughter went to school in Virginia, in Lynchburg, and at Liberty University, and I can tell you, I didn't find any. I've met so many people throughout the years that live in Old Town Alexandria and, around there, and I understand it's a lot of government workers, but it's the swamp, and it's been forever. I mean, you had Ralph Northam, you had this McAuliffe. I mean, just so many crazies that have, in my opinion, come out of Virginia. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, right? I've never found any of those crazies when I'm there, but when you turn on the TV, there they are. So, that's how life is. You can't really base life on the small sample that you see all the time. And that I know. Just like I learned in radio, you get a good amount of calls, that's super. But you can't base that on your whole audience, right? Just 99% of the people listening to the show will never, ever call talk radio. And so I'm thankful for that 1% that does call in. RC, thanks for the call, brother. Shout out to WMAL in the building. Let us continue. Let's go to Mickey giving us a call from Dyer, Indiana, streaming it from WLS. Go right ahead, Mickey.
I just wanted to say, and first of all, good evening, Rich. I will mail you a couple Band-Aids because everyone could use them today.
And an ice pack.
Oh, well said. I just want to know what happened to the morality of this country, and that's on both sides of the coin, when a gentleman is on record uncordatically saying he wanted to kill this person's kids and that person, and yet we elect him. I cannot subscribe to at any cost victory, because that just brings us all down. It takes away from our Christianity. It takes away from humanity, and it kills me.
Mickey, this is, again, another one of the topics that I constantly get into every Thanksgiving and any time that I'm together with my bros and my family. But it's usually, we do dinner with everybody, and then we break off into cigar and whiskey time in the bear room. We have a little room with a card table in it, and it has a bear on the wall. And in this little room, it's not that little, but it's kind of off to the side. We get into all these big discussions, and I can tell you that I usually say the same thing. It's inconsistent with Christianity, and that's when the debate over what kind of Christianity should we ascribe to? Should we ascribe to the Christianity like St. Peter, during Jesus's prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane, where Peter comes. They send the guards to arrest Jesus, and Peter cuts the guy's ear off, and he's like, we're about to throw down. Let's go. And there's a lot of people that want to be Peter instead of being Jesus. And I think that's flawed theology, personally. I think we need to be Christ-like, not Peter-like, right? So that's just one of those things. And you're right. You can't subscribe to this at any cost victory, because you have to have light. You have to have a contrast. And I can tell you, every year around this time, I get nastier, right? I have shorter patience. I drive a little faster. It's not good for me, all the tension from these elections, right? It's a thing, but it happens every year. So I think, it's over. We get to take a breather. I'm probably due for one of those cigar and whiskey sessions with my brothers, and we could keep debating it. But I think you're right. You're right on track. Mickey, thanks for the call. Shout out to you guys in Indiana and to WLS. And folks, we're coming right back with more calls from Vermont, from Clifton, Virginia, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, amigos, welcome back to the phones we go. Doug, Clifton, Virginia, WMAL on the line. You're on with Rich Valdés. Go right ahead.
Well, speaking for the 1% of people that call radio programs, we are very glad to have you out there. So thank you for being on the radio.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Now, two of the very important things, in my opinion, to win these elections has to do with charisma and money. Zoran Mondani, who I don't like, I'm a conservative, originally from New York, now Virginia. He had money. He clearly has a lot of charisma. When it comes to Abigail Spanberger and Winsome Sears, I don't think either one of them has charisma. But Spanberger had 2 to 3 times more money to spend than Winsome Sears, and I think that made a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't see a whole lot of that race, honestly, because I'm not in Virginia much, and sometimes I broadcast from WMAL when I'm in the D.C. area. But I just didn't see much. I didn't even, in the national media, I guess because the New York City race was taking up all the oxygen, you really didn't hear much. And the only other thing I heard, because I'm, local to New Jersey, was the New Jersey race. So it kind of went under the radar for me. And I think that could be for a number of reasons. It could be because it wasn't it was a lackluster race, or because it was, just voter fatigue. And I think there might be a little bit of both going on there. So I don't know. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it was relatively quiet here, and I think it really has to do with the Main Street traditional press keeping quiet. Spanberger was was very clear that she did not want to speak out in terms of men in women's locker rooms. She wouldn't take a position there. And when the
And these are the issues I think that matter to people. Doug, I'm sorry to cut you off, but the music means we got to cut it short. So I appreciate the call. Shout out to Doug in Clifton, Virginia, WMAL. And amigos, we continue with your thoughts, calls, and reactions in the next hour. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdés.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdés, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdés.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdés, Valdés with an S, at Rich Valdés on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Monday night. And if you want to join me on our late-night national town hall conversation, give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And it's election night in New Jersey, New York, Virginia, and we got Proposition 50 on the ballot in California. We're going to check in with our folks in California in a little bit. But the big upsets, all of them were upsets in my opinion. Jack Ciattarelli not winning this evening, nor did Winsome Earl Sears in Virginia, nor did my brother from another, Curtis Sliwa, in New York City. But somebody that did win is Councilman Frank Morano, a Republican from New York City, and he was supposed to join us a little earlier, but it worked out that he's available now. He's in the city doing what politicians do when they win. Let's go to Frank Morano if we can. Let's get to him live. Frank, are you there?
I'm here, Rich. Rich, thanks so much for having me on. Apologies for the delay, but you know the nature of election nights, having been to one or two yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Frank Morano, I want to congratulate you on your victory. I've been talking about, yeah, you're welcome. I've been talking about people losing all night, so it's glad to talk with a Republican that's a winner. Talk to me about how you're feeling. You're elected to a 4-year term. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. Just to put a fine point on what you just said. With all the devastating losses that the GOP suffered today, and, I'm looking at New York City, but I think you can extrapolate this nationally, where we were certainly hoping for a big win in New Jersey and some other key legislative races and gubernatorial, and at least one other gubernatorial race around the country. I think it's more important than ever that the Republican elected officials that are still there in blue states and blue cities, like I am, that we step up and play that role of the loyal opposition. And I'm not saying that we have to be the opposition just for opposition's sake. If, somebody in the opposing party does something that's good, I have no problem working with them. But I think it's important that we do a little less of that go along to get along game, and that we be prepared, especially with someone as radical as Zoran Mamdani, to offer a full-fledged, full-throated resistance to every aspect of their radical agenda. And that's what I'm prepared to do.
Outstanding. I love the way that sounds. Listen, you've got to be a thorn in the side. And I think we need that. New Yorkers definitely want to hear that. Talk to me about the energy. Are you in Staten Island? Are you in Manhattan? Which party are you at?
I'm in Staten Island now, but I'm very close to Manhattan. It's the northern tip of Staten Island for people that are familiar with the geography. We had all of our candidates did a sort of a joint event here on Staten Island. So we had 3 council candidates, a couple of judicial candidates. We had some wins, some losses, but I'll tell you, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy, a lot of concern, quite frankly, at the end of the night about what the future of a Mamdani-led New York City means for Staten Island.
Well, talk to me. What does it mean to Staten Island? What does it mean to the rest of New York City? I know America is anxiously awaiting to see what the next step is going to be.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm very anxious. I'm very concerned. Again, I am fully prepared to work with anybody. But I think that given what we've heard from Mayor-elect Mamdani on public safety and policing, given what we've heard on education and specialized programs like Gifted and Talented, given what we've heard about some remarks that he's made about the Jewish community and what he'd like to do with certain foreign leaders like Modi and Netanyahu, it's incredibly concerning. So, look, I'm prepared to use the oversight power of the city council to hold his feet to the fire. Every time that he does something that is a couple of inches over the line of what's legal, we have an attorney on my staff that's prepared to file a lawsuit to get a temporary injunction to stop that. I wish I could say, it's not going to be that bad. There's nothing to worry about. I think this is incredibly concerning. I don't want to sugarcoat it at all.
Right. And of course it's concerning. Now, Frank, what's on your agenda? You as a legislator, you came in on a special election, you won that handily. You're in now for a full 4-year term. What is your what besides using oversight and going after Mamdani? What do you have on your plate?
Yeah, a couple things, and I appreciate the question. One is I am going to use the bully pulpit of my office and the group of 5 Republicans in the city council, looks like it's going to be 5 after tonight, to vocally say and enthusiastically say no to what the progressive agenda in the city council is and what the progressive agenda of Zoran Mamdani. Then there are all sorts of things that a city council member can do on their own with respect to capital funding, with respect to discretionary funding, and I'm going to try to use that power to get the most bang for our buck in terms of delivering for Staten Island. And then, I know you have a national show. I don't want to be too local, but there's a whole bunch of residential development that is not in keeping with the character of our district, and a whole bunch of industrial development that's not in keeping with where our district is. And I'm hoping that I can be a bulwark against that to some extent.
Outstanding. Now, Frank Morano, for people that are listening and they say, hey, man, I like this guy. How do I keep in touch with him? Let everybody know how they can follow you.
MoranoForCouncil.com, MoranoForCouncil.com. Links to all the social media is on there, and my platform if people want to learn more about what I am planning to do.
Outstanding. Frank Morano, thanks for spending some time with us. Congratulations again.
Thank you, Rich.
Go enjoy your festivities. Send my best to everybody.
Thank you, Rich. I sure will. Bye.
You bet. Take care. God bless. And amigos, we're going to continue with your thoughts, your calls, your reactions. We have a couple of callers that are still on hold, patiently waiting. We're going to get to you momentarily. Also, we're going to check in on what's going on. Proposition 50 is projected to have passed in California. And this is a big deal because they want to shrink the amount of districts that Republicans can run in. And this is, again, another defeat. Right? I laugh because I got nothing else left. But we will come back. We will come back. There's more. We got calls from Delaware, calls from Vermont, which is next, and a couple of people from California that are going to be joining us to talk about this Proposition 50. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if a viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
Services, but been mindful of our budget. And there are a lot of things that have not been accounted for with where the money has been spent. And I thought that Californians would use their minds and not their Trump hate to actually make a decision.
Coming in from a Bay Area of California, Proposition 50 has passed in California. And I think it was expected to pass by many in the media. I always like to let the people decide, and the people have spoken. And that's where we are. They're going to try and redistrict this to 5 congressional seats that favor Democrats. I want to get the scoop on this from the candidate for Secretary of State in the state of California. Don Wagner is with us. He's Orange County Supervisor. Don, welcome back.
Rich, good to be with you tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, brother. So talk to me about what's going on with this Proposition 50.
Well, your report had it right. It looks like Proposition 50 is going to pass. The Democrats are going to gerrymander the state of California, and for the next 3 election cycles, at least, we're going to see an overwhelming additional number of Democrats coming out of California. Republicans generally get about 40%, maybe a little bit more of the vote. We've had 20% of the congressional seats, and with this, we're expected to go down to about 9%. So much for democracy, Gavin, but that's where we are. The question now is, how good campaigns we can have in those remaining seats for us, and will the Democrats really give back the power that they just took from the people and restore our commission in 2032 remains to be seen.
Now, did you expect this to be the result, or is this coming as a surprise to you?
It sadly is not a surprise. We were looking at polling going into the last couple of weeks, and it looked like it was passing to the point where the No on 50 campaign pretty much stopped raising money, stopped really doing anything out there, threw in the towel because it appeared, frankly, to everybody that this was going to be a foregone conclusion. In California, Gavin Newsom made this Newsom versus Trump, and the Trump brand is sadly not as well supported in the state of California as it is in other places in this nation. Once you make this Newsom versus Trump, it looked to be a foregone conclusion, and that's what both campaigns ended up deciding. Indeed, the Yes campaign stopped raising money about a week or so out. So it sadly is no surprise, though it is a great disappointment.
Yeah. Now, Don Wagner, talk to me a little bit about what we can expect coming out of California moving forward. Do you think this is a foregone conclusion now that this is passed, guaranteed wins, or is there a fighting chance? Your thought?
Well, there's a fighting chance, and some of the districts are less Democratic than they might have been in the past because they had to move Democrats into adjoining districts to beef them up. So on the margins, there may be an opportunity to pick up a seat or two that we aren't expected to win and surprise people. But that only means instead of having 4, if we pick up 1 or 2, we have 6 versus the 9 that we had before Proposition 50 passed. So I am expecting the California delegation to tilt significantly more to the Democrats than it had in the past. It's a question of those couple of marginal seats. But it should obviously empower other states, Republican states around the nation, to say if California is going to mess with democracy, if California is going to say, hey, 2 wrongs do make a right, and what Texas was doing was wrong, so we're going to do the same wrong thing in California, it should empower other states to redistrict as well. At the end of the day, I don't know whether the Democrats end up getting closer to the majority in Washington as a result of gerrymandering, but I know in California it is a blow, a real body blow to the Republicans. That said, I'll also tell you, I think we're going to have some surprises in the election coming up in November of 26. Gavin Newsom is not going to be on the ballot. His brand is toxic because he and his party have gone so far to the left. Voters are beginning to wake up, and I think we're going to make some inroads. Frankly, that's one of the reasons I'm running for Secretary of State, is to be there and explain to the voters what the Democrats have done wrong and that there are, in fact, better ways to run a state.
Don Wagner, you say that the Newsom brand is toxic, yet his initiative that he paraded around won tonight. Do you think that these are kind of mutually exclusive things, or was this something that was really favored by the people?
When I say the Newsom brand is toxic, it is all of the leftist stuff that we've lived under here in California that just hasn't worked. It's the massive spending. He took office with a multi-billion-dollar deficit and has not only turned that around, but we're now looking at a budget deficit that is approximately $12 billion, though the base budget this year is $24 billion higher than it was last year. They can't help themselves on spending, and that matters to the pocketbook of California voters. And so Gavin, one-on-one against Trump, making this a Gavin versus Trump one, good for him. The rest of his policies are not working, and they're toxic. I'll tell you, I don't care how liberal you are, when the left is coming for your children, and that's what they're doing in our schools, for example, then you're not having it. And I am optimistic voters are going to make some changes at the top in this state, and get us back to not completely common sense government, but start us on a path back towards where we really do need to be. This is a marvelous state. The only thing that's wrong with it is bad governance that makes it hard to raise a family, to educate that family, to start and to grow a business. That's what's wrong with California. And it comes right out of Sacramento. Voters are beginning to take notice of that. We didn't see it in Prop 50, but that's sort of a one-off. When you talk about all the different economic and social issues that are out there, the Democratic brand is starting to wear thin in this state. We've had 20 years of one-party rule, and we are right now looking at a state that is marginally functional, if not dysfunctional completely.
Don Wagner, I hope you're right, because I can tell you, you are correct in saying that they're coming for your kids. And I've seen and spoken with a few people regarding the policies that they've tried to promote and have passed in some instances, where guidance counselors can say, we want to take your kid, and they can use CPS to just make these referrals even more, more legal than they were in the past, where you would think that can't be legal. But this is the type of thing that I think parents are facing there. Yet, Idaho's getting some Californians, but you don't see I don't see a mass exodus, and it's kind of like a repeat of New York, right? I think some people just really enjoy leftism, and they're like, hey, this is where we do it.
Well, we've been doing it for 20 years in California, and it's getting harder and harder to say that it works. And it's getting harder and harder to say what fixes California is doubling down on stupid policies that we've had in the past. But I'll tell you, it is just crazy. I mean, my kids are in their 30s now, but when my kids were in middle school, I had the school call my office once and said, Mr. Wagner, you got to pick up your daughter. She has a headache. And I said, give her an aspirin. She said, oh, we can't do that. But they could take her to get an abortion if she needed one without even telling me. And we have not fixed that problem. We've only made it worse. Our education is among the worst. Our students are performing among the worst in the nation. Right. During COVID, Gavin Newsom shut us down longer and harder than any other state in the union. And
he said you couldn't sing in church.
You couldn't sing in church. I'm hoping at some point the public wakes up.
Don Wagner, give us the website for your campaign quickly.
WagnerForCalifornia.com.
WagnerForCalifornia.com. Don Wagner, keep up the good fight. You're a patriot, brother. Thank you for being here. Godspeed to you. And amigos, we're coming right back, continue our conversation on election night, what's going on, what to expect moving forward, and so much more. Your calls, 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere.
America at Night with Rich Valdés.
The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
That is Zoran Mamdani moments ago on stage in Brooklyn, New York, accepting the victory that he received tonight. Mayor of the city of New York, the 111th mayor of the city of New York. And as you notice, he cites one of the most famous American socialists of the mid-1800s, Eugene Debs. Guy got locked up for protesting. He spent 6 months in jail for being a protester, messing up the railways in Detroit. And this is who he turns to when he talks about, the sun setting and the sun shines and the new day and all the rest of that stuff. And the crowd going wild, right? Just at the mention of Debs' name. So I want to get some reaction to this and everything else that happened tonight. I need help. I need a lot of help. I want to go to Jennifer Kelly. Jen, she's the host of the Jennifer Kelly Show on AM 970, The Answer in New York City and across the country. And she's done a lot of amazing work through the years. She's been a writer for the presidential debate. She was the press secretary for the Republican Party in the state of California. She worked for Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger as one of the assistant commissioners there. I mean, you name it, she's done it. Jen, welcome back.
Hey, you're a brave and bold American for being on the airwaves tonight, especially when there's bad news. It's always hard to get on and try to make sense of it all.
Oh, man, I am taking my lumps tonight for sure.
Well, look, it's been a shocking night, especially, in three key states, of course, New York City. Obviously, as you just said there, Zoran Mamdani, the first open socialist. I say open socialist because I think we've had a few. They just haven't been so open about it. But this is, of course, just super shocking for New York City and for America to see this happening, in what was one of the best cities this country has ever had. I think even more shocking, though, are the numbers in New Jersey. Jack Ciattarelli was supposed to have been closer than he ended up being tonight. We were told over the weekend he was within, 5 points, which was within striking distance, within the statistical margin of error. That turned out not to be true. That ended up being a 14-point race. Now, it remains to be seen. Is that due to some voter suppression on the ground? We heard from Scott Pressler all day that there were some problems in Lakewood, New Jersey, Republican-heavy area. A lot of people being turned away, told they couldn't even vote by provisional ballot, which is a violation of the Voting Rights Act. So there may have been some problems on the ground. But when you compare it to the New York City numbers and you compare it to also the Commonwealth of Virginia numbers, it kind of fits with the whole narrative of tonight. And lastly, Rich, I think the most shocking result of the night, at least for me, maybe for other people too, are the results in the state of Virginia. Here you had in the just, 11 weeks, I think it is, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, you have the top cop, the guy who's going to be the top law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia, a guy who talked about putting 2 bullets in the head of his political opponents and hoping that his children also died in the parents' arms. He is now going to be the top law enforcement official in the state of Virginia. And his cohort, Abigail Spanberger, the lady who just won the governorship, she was asked at least 4 times on the campaign trail if she would disavow those comments by the Attorney General candidate Jay Jones, if she had anything to say about them, and she said nothing. That to me is chilling where we're at in this country.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you. Today I'm a little winded. I'm a little demoralized. I'm a little banged up. Tomorrow I'll be better. But I'm thinking, how did we get here so fast? And were we really here? Right? I was thinking that with the election that we just had, a year ago, with President Trump being very decisive, in my opinion, that we were headed in the right direction. But here we are. So where do you think, how do we make this left turn? I mean, obviously, there's a million debates that are going to go on. Oh, these candidates suck. They didn't do a good job. Oh, you can't believe the polls, which I believe you can't believe the polls. But ultimately, I think people spoke tonight, right? Zoran Mamdani's got a huge room filled with a lot of people that like what he's selling. That's not a lie. That's a fact.
Yeah, it's true. It's a couple of things. I think the answer is a couple of things, Rich. I think number one, we see so often, right, that the first midterm elections after a presidential election, the country kind of sways the other way, right? It's the people's way of providing these checks and balances, not the formal checks and balances that are in our Constitution, but the people kind of decide these checks and balances.
Especially in Virginia. I think that's pretty historical. We've seen that often.
Yes. And so I think what you're seeing tonight is that sort of swaying back to the left. People have seen, kind of the Trump effect, and they're trying to take power back, at least locally in their state, so they feel like they have some, semblance of control. What will be interesting here, though, is if you look back at the 1993 mayoral race in New York City when Rudy Giuliani won, that was actually a bellwether for the Republicans historically taking back the House. I remember Newt Gingrich, the contract with America, Republicans standing on the steps of the U.S. Capitol. So the New York City race is a bellwether for what can happen in the country after a major presidential race. Here's the bad news for Republicans. So in this case, it's probably going to be a very rough midterms, I think, for the GOP, unless some changes are made. Because if you look at that 1993, the year prior to the 94 midterms, when a Republican won in New York City overwhelmingly, the next midterms went to the GOP. Now we have the opposite situation happening. You have a socialist winning in New York City. If he can make as big of a splash as Rudy Giuliani did with cleaning up New York City, if Zoran can go in and show, hey, socialism's not so bad. See, this doesn't look evil. This is great. Look at all the great things we're doing. That could be very problematic for the GOP in the 2026 midterms.
I agree with that. AOC, all out crazy, my least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was doing an interview a little while ago, and I caught a piece of it. And she says that she, because of her age, that she has been called a socialist her whole life, and she's chosen to be a socialist. And it's something it's a moniker she wears proudly, right? This is her party, the DSA, Democrat Socialists of America. And as you were saying, and I've heard this before, but, today it hit a little different, where I realized maybe it's not a good strategy to say, and this person's a socialist, because most people don't care, clearly, right? Mm-hmm. she keeps winning, at least in these districts. And that's really, I guess, the question I have is, how much of America is amenable to socialism, now versus a couple of years back? I feel like we've moved the needle quite a bit, and people like it.
Yeah, look at how much the needle has moved in just 6 short years. It wasn't that long ago that the squad got in the 2018 midterms. Speaking of midterms, this is why midterms are so important. AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Cori Bush, all these folks got in the 2018 midterms. And in just 6 short years, they have managed to rebrand socialism so that it looks a lot better than it did under Bernie
cool
Sanders.
Now. Yeah.
Oh, it's super cool. It's super hip. We're all wearing white and women's suffragette and at the State of the Union, and we're cool and we're doing rap games and we're on Twitch and we're gaming. They have rebranded socialism so it looks cool to all of the kids out there. And the youth vote turned out tonight, and the women's vote turned out tonight. About 80% of women went for Democrats. And so we still have that pesky gender problem out there as well. But look, this is a problem. I wrote about this a couple years ago in my book, The Real War on Women, as you know. And I talked about the youth in this country, where even 65% even of young Republicans in 2021, in the wake of COVID-19, they said capitalism they thought was no longer a positive thing, and that they were open to the construct of socialism. And that's not even the Democrats. Those are the blue blazer wearing young Republicans who said this. So we have a problem. We have a lot of work to do ahead of us, and people better get ready, because it's going to be a tough battle over the next year.
Whew. All right, Jen Kelly, people want to learn more about what she's doing. She's on the radio. You can check her out. Let everybody know where they go to listen to your show and to get a copy of your book.
Sure. Every morning, 5:30 a.m., Monday through Friday, we're kicking off the morning drive time in New York City and New Jersey. They can go to thejenniferkellyshow.com anytime, and just connect with me on social media as well.
Jen, I appreciate you being here. Godspeed to you. Have a great show tomorrow morning. We'll do it again real soon.
Okay. Sounds good, Rich.
You bet. Thank you. God bless. Now, amigos, we're coming right back. Your thoughts, calls, and reactions. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdés with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdés with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back to the phones we go. I see we have a caller named Justin refusing to say where he's calling from. We don't take calls from strangers, so thanks for your call, brother. Let's go to Brandon, Wilmington, Delaware, WDEL. Go right ahead, my man.
You know, Rich, tonight we saw the end of the Blue Dog Democrat. You know what? It's amazing that people don't realize that New York City, the third largest economy in the world, is now controlled by a self-proclaimed socialist. I mean, you might as well have Hugo Chavez running the country now, running the city now. And it's just amazing that New Yorkers made this decision. I mean, for the first time, I actually considered voting for Cuomo. And I think this is just
you're part of the
appalling.
problem.
I think it's a sad day for New York City.
It definitely is, brother. It definitely is. Let me tell you, I think this is this is a lesson that I learned a long time ago, being a Republican in New Jersey, and you know a little bit about that. And it's hard to be a Republican in New Jersey because there's not a lot of conservatives, right? There's a lot of these fair weather Republicans that work really, really well with the Democrats, go along to get along, don't like to put up too much of a fight because they're the minority. And New York is very much the same way. And you saw how quickly they turn on a dime, right? Put a little pressure and they're like, oh, we can't win. Oh, my gosh. Oh, they start belly aching and whining. And they'll put a baby killing, grandma killing, no cash bail signing, sanctuary state signing, disgraced former governor, and have everybody and their mama trying to get this guy elected. That's the mistake. The mistake that I learned many years ago, it wasn't a mistake, but it was a lesson. And the lesson was, when you're a conservative, you have to be a conservative. You can't be this lukewarm person, because when push comes to shove, you're going to lose, Brandon.
I don't disagree. I mean, it's amazing, Rich. And let's not just focus on the New York City race, which was appalling. New Yorkers should be shamed that they would even utter or even consider a guy who has made it very clear that anytime you're talking about government-run grocery stores, I mean, this is things that they do, Rich, in third world countries, and we're talking about doing it in New York City, the home of innovation and entrepreneurism. But let's go a step further. You had a qualified African-American, female, lieutenant governor, veteran, family woman, mother, running And Obama, the guy who told you just last year, vote for the African-American woman, he told that to a group of young schoolboys, turns around and says, vote for Spamberger, who could not answer a question, a simple question, and actually, Rich, refused to reject the comments of an attorney general, we're talking about the top cop of Virginia, who said that he wanted someone murdered and talked about murdering their child.
Unbelievable. And let me tell you, you're right with Winsome Sears. I think she didn't get a fair shake. She also, Obama was there campaigning for Spamberger. And again, this is not shame on him. This is shame on everybody that supported this. And the NAACP, they both endorsed the white woman over the black woman, which is just wild, right? To think that when you make statements like that, go for the black woman, and then there is one and you don't do it. It just flies in the face of normalcy, of common sense. Brandon, thanks for the call, brother. Shout out to you guys and everybody at Project 21. I'm going to pause right here. We're going to come right back to the rest of your calls. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdés.
All right, amigos, it's the speed round, so you're not going to get to say as much as you wanted to say, so say what you got to say and say it quickly. Let's go to Jeremy, Cleveland, Ohio, WNIR. Speed round, brother, go for it.
Hey, Mr. Valdés, I just want to say how stupid New Yorkers are. From what I've seen in my life, I've never heard of a group of people willingly voting for communism. It's always been done by force. So that just shows how stupid New Yorkers have become. No offense to you.
Listen, I get it. I understand. And I kind of feel the same way. It is a wild notion. It's even crazier to think we had Republicans that were going with Cuomo, who was probably the biggest communistic authoritarian dictator during the COVID days. And people were thinking of, putting that guy in office. Just wild times, man. Wild times. Thanks for the call, brother. Let's see. Oh, geez, 1 minute. That's not enough for everybody here. I got Tony in Montreal. I got Roger in Evansville. Roger in Evansville says that there's redistricting going on. Roger, talk to me quickly.
I talked to the Secretary of State, Diego Morales, a couple months ago, and I told him that surveyors start in the southeast corner of their sections and work northwest. So I suggested we've got 6.9 million divided by 9 U.S. districts, and it comes up with about 769,000.
Hopefully he'll listen to what you had to say about redistricting there. I met Diego Morales during inauguration. Nice guy. Nice family. Roger, thanks for the call. Sunny, Lake of the Ozarks, KRMS. Thank you, sir. Paul in Zanesville, Ohio, WHIZ. Tony, shout out to you. Hasta la próxima. I'm Rich Valdés.